Actually, I'm sure Del Toro will spill the beans eventually.
Yeah.
He seems like he's not very tight-lipped, so.
Was that a fat joke? I feel like that was a fat joke.
It could be. It was not meant to be.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, a weekly nerd culture podcast that discusses the culture through various segments. My name is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host, as always, that Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm good. Stand-up went well. We discussed that last episode, so I was pretty happy with that under the circumstances. I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was laying in bed and I saw you post a status or something about going to stand up. And I'm like, son of a bitch. I forgot.
I figured you were going to forget. Yeah, there was like maybe 15 people there.
Really?
And I think about 7 or 8 of them were fellow comedians. So like I said, it went well considering the circumstances.
You're telling me a shitty bar on a Monday night wasn't packed?
Well, actually, I've gone there before. I haven't actually performed there before, but I've actually gone there on the Monday night for the open night, or open mic, and it was actually packed. I think it had something to do with Memorial Day.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, everybody that was there was like, I can't believe that there's this, like, few people here, because I guess that they come weekly and it's packed. So, I'm gonna go this coming Monday as well. So I'm gonna try to do it every week.
I'm off Tuesday, so I want to come.
Okay.
But I'm going to need you to probably remind me.
Not just my Facebook status. It wasn't even a couple hours. It was like 45 minutes. Hey, you gotta give me some notice, man. Well, I mean, you're an adult. You made a commitment. I thought you would, follow through on that.
No, I'll be there this time.
Okay.
What time is it?
9:00.
At Lamasco's.
Yes.
In Evansville, Indiana.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Franklin Street.
Gotcha.
Cool, man. So if this is your first episode of the Nerd You're Looking For podcast, we start off each episode by just kind of checking in with each other. We call it what we're into. So Tyler, what are you into this week?
I watched the other night Batman versus Robin. I figured I'd talk about it really quick because I think we brought it up on the podcast a few weeks ago, right before it was getting ready to come out. And it took me this long to get around to it just because it didn't really pique my interest too much, but I did buy it, and as I buy most of the DC animated stuff, and I gave it a go, and it was alright. It wasn't my favorite DC animated movie that they've put out, but it was what it was. I thought it was cool that they included the Court of Owls in it.
Yeah.
The Court of Owls being characters that were created by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo just a few years ago, and they've really gained popularity, and that's a really good storyline in the comics that they put together. So it was cool seeing that come to life a little bit. Besides that, it wasn't all that great. I didn't really like the voice acting too much. The kid that voices Damian Wayne Robin was really annoying, and it wasn't Kevin Conroy voicing Batman/Bruce Wayne. So
you didn't like Weird Al?
Weird Al's barely in it.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that was him until afterwards. I was on IMDb and I'm like, wow, it was Weird Al.
Well,
He voices the doll maker.
I was like, that's a weird voice. Like, I couldn't like pin it down, and so I looked like as I was watching the movie.
Did you watch it? Okay, so you've seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
I didn't realize you've seen it. It wasn't really my Batman. He wasn't tortured enough. Like, my Batman is brooding and he's always in the Batcave.
It's an animated movie.
It's PG-13.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Spoiler alert, Dollmaker gets his heart ripped out.
Yeah.
He's not brooding. He has his kid now, and he's like, hey, you want to watch this movie? I'll make some popcorn. Alfred, 2 bowls of popcorn and shit. It's like, that's not my Batman. And then there's a really weird part in it that caught me off guard. I guess Nightwing, Dick Grayson is babysitting. Not really, but he's watching over Damian to make sure he doesn't get out and get into trouble. And he's on the phone with his girlfriend, who's Starfire, who's in the Teen Titans, and it's just like a little cameo. You never really even see her or hear her. You just see her picture on his phone, but she's talking about how she's, wearing something sexy, and Dick Grayson goes, you only hear Dick Grayson talking, and he says something along the lines of, the one with the lace and the thong? And it was really fucking strange and out of place. And this, like you said, this is an animated movie.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know, it just hit me the wrong way. And there was all sorts of little things like that throughout it that didn't really click. But I mean, it was, like I said, cool seeing the Court of Owls, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I have seen this, but barely. Cause I watched it and I was like, cause we had mentioned it on the podcast a few episodes ago. And I was like, well, it'd be kind of cool to throw up a quick review on our website, thenerdspodcast.com. But I actually fell asleep it was only for like 10 minutes in like the middle of the movie. So obviously it didn't really keep my attention. So I was just like, yeah, I probably shouldn't review something that I fell asleep during.
What's funny is Talon in this movie is voiced by Troy Baker, who is going to be at Indie PopCon June 26th through the 28th or 29th.
Something like that.
Where we are also going to be.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue to pimp that. But besides that, it was just an average movie. DC Animated has a pretty good track record, but this is not up there in the upper echelon. So I would skip it, I think.
Yeah, I wasn't that impressed.
Unless you're really a big fan of the Court of Owls storyline, then there's some gratification there. But besides that, no thanks.
I thought the whole Talon thing was pretty cool, but yeah, for the most part, I wasn't that impressed. I liked how the Talon is basically Batman if Batman decided to kill people.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of him trying to talk Robin into basically becoming the new Talon, and why Batman's wrong for not killing people and all this other stuff. And I really appreciated that. But other than that little aspect of the movie, I wasn't that fond of it.
It's kind of funny. Every Robin after Dick Grayson has been a little fucker.
Yeah.
Like Dick Grayson's still Nightwing. He's still hanging around. He's like totally devote to Batman, and all the other Robins are just little dickholes. I like Dick Grayson. I think he's my favorite Robin. Here's a quick nerd favorite. Who's your favorite Robin? Can you even answer that question?
I mean, Dick Grayson.
Are you just saying that because that's the only Robin you know?
That's the only Robin I can think of off the top of my head.
That's fair. Damian Wayne's okay. He's in the comics.
Burt Ward.
I meant fictionally, but that's not Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
No, because he's not Robin.
Kind of is. His name is Robin.
That was stupid. And I hated that so much.
Did you really?
Yeah, I hated it.
That sent shivers down my spine whenever they said that.
No, that was stupid.
And you know, he's inherited the Batcave. I fucking love that.
No, that was stupid.
I love the last 20 minutes of that movie.
No, that was stupid.
All right, that's fair. Okay, what are you into, man?
What I'm into, we usually try to keep it somewhat new, but I just got this new video game, and I use new in quotes. It's the new NBA 2K15. I know we try to stay away from talking about sports. Tyler and I are both big sports fans, but
when have we ever shied away from talking about sports?
I try to shy away from talking about sports because I know that's not a popular sentiment within the culture. So we try to stay away from it. At least I do. But I just got this game, been playing it for a couple of weeks, and I thought it would be something that we could talk about just because I'm really, really disappointed in it.
Really?
I like these games a lot. I'm not a huge basketball fan, even though I am a big sports fan. Basketball is, for me, more fun to play than it is to watch. I'm just not a huge fan of it. And I really like these games. I really enjoy playing them. I had rented NBA 2K14 on 360 when it came out, like when it first came out, played it, loved it. And it's really cool because it's kind of like an My Career is kind of like an interactive movie where you can kind of like sit down and have interviews and you can kind of pick the person that you want to be. Like they give you a couple, different choices about how you're going to respond to a question, and you can kind of be the villain if you want to be the villain, or you can kind of be the boring good guy if that's who you want to be. And then when I got the Xbox One, Tyler and I went to Coconuts and I turned in a bunch of my 360 stuff, and I got the NBA 2K14 on Xbox One, and it was like a whole new level that they brought it to. My Career was completely different. It was literally an interactive movie. It was very cool. They took it to a whole new level from the 360 to the Xbox One. And so I was kind of expecting that same type of game when I got this game a couple of weeks ago. It's really not. They definitely took a step back. It's just weird because in the previous games, you would have scrimmages and you'd have like these draft workouts, and then how well you did in those workouts determined how high you got drafted.
Yeah.
But what always bothered me, and I'm sure that this is the reason they did what they did in this new game. For example, last year, I was selected by the Detroit Pistons. I got selected with the 8th pick, but there's an actual person that got selected with that pick, and he's still on the team. And so they can't really mess with the rosters like that. So basically, in this new edition, they make you go undrafted. Like, there's nothing you could do to get drafted. You just go on, like, in the game starts and you see a cutscene of you watching the draft and you getting pissed that you didn't get drafted.
Yeah.
And you have to work out for teams, and then they offer you a 10-day contract, which I guess is the way they wanted to fix that situation.
Yeah.
But for me, it just kind of bummed me out because I liked the idea of me getting drafted, and it was an achievement in past games where you get drafted in the lottery and all this other stuff. So that was kind of a bummer. And then later, I'm playing, I think it was with the Jazz. I played for a couple of different teams at this point. It went to a cutscene after a game, and I left the locker room, but I set my phone down, and one of my teammates stole my phone. And looking at my text messages, which is a dick move, Trey Burke, if you're listening, you son of a bitch. And it became this whole big ordeal. I guess I was talking to my agent about trying to try out for other teams and sign with a different team. And I had nothing to do with that. Like, nothing that I did prompted that cutscene.
Yeah.
And so I had no control over that. And so I ended up signing with a different team just because I was just like, fuck this. Like, for the next, few games, all it was like I was getting interviewed about, oh, well, I hear that your teammates are mad at you or blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't do anything to prompt this response. So that kind of bugged me. And the game itself, the graphics, I mean, they're amazing. I mean, they use, the player's real voice, like in interviews and stuff like that. So that's really cool. And the graphics look beautiful, but they're really glitchy. For example, one thing that happens in my career, like when you become a free agent, there's players like superstars from other teams come to your apartment and they try to like convince you to sign with this team, but they'll like walk in and the game will glitch and they won't say anything, but the cutscene will continue and I'll respond to them like I said, like they actually said something, but in the game you don't actually hear them talk, and it's really weird. And then occasionally when you get taken out of the game and you sit on the bench, it like shows the game through your eyes, but sometimes it gets like glitchy and you like see inside of his head and like you see the back of his eyeballs. It's really weird and glitchy. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to next year's game. I probably won't get it when it comes out, just like I didn't get this game when it first came out. The only reason I'm looking forward to it is just because, Spike Lee, I guess, is writing or directing or doing something with My Career.
Oh, Jesus
which I think
Christ.
is kind of cool. Well, I mean, I'm not a huge Spike Lee fan, but I think it's cool that they're taking it to that extreme. Like, people actually care about this game enough to sit down and actually like write My Career, whatever. I don't know exactly what he's doing with it, but
having the Knicks win it.
That's my favorite aspect of the game. And so I think it's cool that they're taking it really seriously. That being said, I don't like what they did with this particular edition of the game.
Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of unnecessary stuff. Like inserting the actual drama of the NBA into the game is just weird to me. Like I
like it. I mean,
Really?
that's one of the things I liked about last year's game was that that's what it felt like. But
Trey Burke reading your phone, your text messages.
Yeah, I didn't like that, but I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I haven't been enjoying it as much as, last year's game. Like literally last year's game, your rookie year, it doesn't let you simulate any games. I enjoyed this so much that I literally played like 100 games at
Wow.
8-minute quarters. That's how much I liked playing this game. We won the NBA championship because eventually I became a starter and my team was like unstoppable. Like we literally won like 60 games in a row. It was ridiculous. I'm pretty good at the game. And then this game, I skipped around because I just didn't have that same excitement to play each game. And I don't know if it had anything to do with the cutscenes or whatnot. It just, the game itself, it just isn't as crisp as I would like it to be.
All right, cool.
All right.
I haven't played an NBA game for a system since the N64.
Oh yeah?
But I love that game. I don't forget what it was. It was pretty sweet though.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Madden. That comes out in a couple of months, so I'm sure I'll be talking about that in a few months.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff coming out over the next few months. It's going to be a big gaming summer.
Yeah, I actually want to, this kind of ties into the NBA game, because I'm going to probably be turning it in, not this coming week, but next week, because, Elder Scrolls comes out.
Yeah, I'm going to actually play that.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that in, well, the NBA game and the Halo game, which was a complete waste of money because matchmaking never fucking worked.
Yeah. Oh, God,
and, hopefully I get enough money to get the Elder Scrolls game. It comes out on my birthday, actually.
Really?
And so does Kingsman.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Elder Scrolls Online. Yeah. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm not a huge fan of those games, but I am whenever it's online and multiplayer like that. So I think that it could be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, it's going to be a big gaming couple of months because Arkham Knight comes out on the 23rd. So I'll probably play Elder Scrolls until that comes out. And then I'll play that until Madden comes out in August. The new NBA game doesn't come out until I think September 26th, I think.
Yeah.
26th or 27th, something like that. So I probably won't get that right away because I usually just play Madden for the next 3 months. So yeah, I'll probably wait until about this time next year to get the new NBA game, but it sounds pretty cool with the whole Spike Lee thing.
I saw you post something on one of the pages about The Witcher 3. Do you ever consider yourself getting that?
If it wasn't so close to all these other games that I want to get, maybe eventually I'll pick it up, but then it's kind of like buying Destiny right now. It's everybody that really got into it are moving on to Witcher 3 or Elder Scrolls or something like that. Yeah. And I don't know. I
appreciate what they're doing with it. Like they're releasing all the content free of charge so that all the DLC you don't have to pay for.
Yeah.
And I read a quote from somebody saying something along the lines of, you showed us faith by purchasing this game. So we're going to reward that faith by giving you more content free of charge, which I think is a really cool stance to take, especially with all the controversy surrounding Arkham Knight and how much they're charging for the season pass and the extra content. So I kind of want to support that game, but it's just something that I don't think I'll have time for.
Yeah, it seems like one of those games that I would get lost in really easily.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do anything else. I'm actually, we were planning on going to Gatlinburg in a couple of weeks. Actually, it was going to be the week of my birthday. That wasn't the reason we were going. It just kind of lined up that way. But I couldn't get the days off for work. I've been having a hard time getting days off for work recently. I might not even be at any PopCon Friday.
Yeah.
Because I'm having a hard time getting the days off for work. But yeah, that's not going to happen. So I think I'm going to use that week for the week that Madden comes out.
Yeah, I mean, that works.
And then just play Madden the whole week.
I took the week off that Arkham Knight comes out. After it comes out. Well, I have to go do something that Tuesday it comes out. There was no way of getting around it, but then I'm off the rest. Unfortunately, well, no, not unfortunately. It's the week of PopCon that Arkham Knight comes out.
That works out well.
So I took it off anyways, but then I took off another week later because I won't be able to beat it by the time we have to go to PopCon. So I have all sorts of time set aside for that game.
Okay, cool.
All right, man. You ready to move on to comics?
Yeah, sure. What are you reading this week?
All right. So this week, actually, I didn't read this week. I'm kind of cheating a little bit. I read this a couple weeks ago and I wanted to talk about it, but there were just other comics that kind of came before it to talk about. But I'm finally getting around to talking about The Mantle, which came out probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was put out by Image Comics. And it's a number one, which we've talked about many, many times, how Image puts out all sorts of number ones and gives all sorts of comic book artists an opportunity to put things out and how cool they seem as an independent comic book company. So this is no exception. It's right in the vein of those others, books we've talked about. So what this story is about is it's about this being of like unlimited power and this almost like, it reminds me a lot of Green Lantern and that there's a bunch of superhero powers and it transfers from host to host. So it picks who it wants and it goes to a new host every time the mantle dies. So you start off the story with a guy and his girlfriend and the guy becomes the mantle and he doesn't know what's going on or why he has these powers. And shortly after he gets them, these 3 other super beings show up. One of them is a teleporter. One of them is a medium. And then the other is just like this hulking, person that reminds me of the Hulk. And they're here to show this person how to use the powers and become the mantle. The problem is there's this villain that follows the mantle wherever it goes. It's called the Plague, and he's just killing mantles. So every time somebody becomes the mantle, before they find out how to harness the power and actually use it to the best of its ability, they get killed. So this plague shows up and things happen, and I won't spoil what happens at the end of the first issue, but it's very violent and it's a very brutal book, and it's kind of cool. Like I said, it reminds me of the Green Lantern in that, if a Green Lantern dies, the ring kind of chooses its next host of who's going to have it. But it's just, it's not that I don't like Green Lantern. It's just, it's more interesting to me than Green Lantern is in a way. So it's kind of cool. It's almost like it's not a gift of superhero abilities, because as soon as you get it, you have this villain coming to rip your head off. So it's a pretty cool book. I definitely suggest checking it out.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm surprised I'd never even heard of it, being a pretty big Image fan, but it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I stumbled across it by mistake. I just kind of saw it at Comic Quest and thought the cover looked cool and picked it up and ended up liking it quite a bit. I think issue 2 comes out not this Wednesday, but the Wednesday after. So.
Yeah, I'll probably end up putting that on my pull list. It sounds really good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. So what are you reading, man?
Well, before I get into what I'm reading, I want to make a correction. It's kind of bothered me since I posted the last episode. You might already know what I'm talking about, Tyler. But I brought up Secret Wars #2, and I made kind of like a one-off joke about how I had just gotten Secret Wars #2 just in time for Secret Wars #3 to come out. That is actually not true. Secret Wars #3 is not out. It doesn't come out until the 3rd. Yeah, I just assumed. I didn't do any research, which kind of what we do on this podcast. We don't do any kind of research. I just assumed since 1 and 2 kind of were released back to back, I thought that's just what they were doing. And so I made that joke, and maybe I should have done some research first. So Secret Wars #3 isn't out. I just wanted to make that correction because it bugged me. After I edited the episode, I was like, actually, you know what? I don't think it's come out yet. And I just didn't want to take it out of the episode. So I apologize for that. Anyways, what I want to talk about is Howard the Duck #3. And I really, really love this comic. It might be, I don't want to say it's definitely not the best comic being put out there today, but it's probably by far the funniest that I read.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy in the way that it's just so much goddamn fun to read, and that movie was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's just so damn funny.
I don't read it.
You should.
I know.
It's really good.
After all this great stuff I've heard about it, I wish I would have jumped on #1, and it's not too late to jump on now, I guess, but.
Yeah, basically #1, I've talked about, #1, I guess it's been 4 or 5 episodes at this point. And Howard the Duck, he's a private detective now, and his, secretary is the She-Hulk, and it's really funny. And then he takes on this case, and he's trying to find this necklace. He finds it, but he gets captured by the Collector, and he goes into space prison, and he meets up with Rocket Raccoon, and, the Guardians of the Galaxy save him, and now he's at #3, he's back on Earth, trying to find this necklace again. And he finally finds it, and there's kind of a weird senior citizen brainwash mugging subplot in this comic book. That's a little weird, but it kind of makes sense. The whole comic book is kind of weird. And then there's a big reveal at the end of the #3, and it's funny how they're so meta, and it's really my sense of humor type of stuff. Like, you know how in comic books they'll have an asterisk next to something, and they're like, in the little block below at the bottom of the page, it'll be like, see this issue. And they're like, one issue, they're like, see this issue, and it's this much money, and I just thought that was funny. And at one point, Spider-Man is talking to Aunt May, and Howard the Duck, grabs her, and so she drops her cell phone and, these flowers that she was carrying. And so, Spider-Man swoops in, and he just sees the flowers and the cell phone just laying there, and he thinks Aunt May's dead. He's just like, oh no, I'm so bad at this. It's just that kind of jokes. That's my sense of humor, and I just love how it's meta, and Spider-Man's in it, and Guardians of the Galaxy were in an issue. It's really cool how he has no superpowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing he can do.
Yeah.
And so I just love how he always has to get saved, and how there's all these other superheroes that are come and go in this comic book. It's really great.
Yeah, awesome. I like I said, I want to jump in now while it's still early in its run and I'm not too far behind.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite.
Oh, it's awesome, man.
Yep.
Alrighty, you ready to move on?
Yeah, for sure.
Alright, so our next segment is Nerd News, which is the segment of each episode where we talk about all the breaking news that have to deal with nerd culture, that's happened since the last time we recorded. So, have quite a few stories today. We probably won't spend a lot of time on some of these, but I figure we'll bring them up anyways, and we'll just jump right in. So the first one is kind of interesting to me because this is a movie that never got made that I was really curious about. So back in 2007, George Miller, who just recently directed Mad Max Fury Road, was putting together a Justice League movie called Justice League Mortal, and it was going to have Armie Hammer in it as Batman. Adam Brody was going to be the Flash. Common was going to be Green Lantern. And then a few other actors I'm not too familiar with were playing other characters. And it just never happened. It fell apart. It wasn't made. And I think that the success of Christopher Nolan's movies kind of played a part in that. They didn't want competing film versions of Batman.
Sure.
So never happened, but I've always been curious about it. So apparently they're going to be making a documentary about it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Called Miller, the tentative title is like Miller's Justice League, or Miller's Justice League Mortal, I think. And
which is a super lame title.
Yeah, I mean, it's straight to the chase though. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think part of what's sparked it into development is not only that George Miller just put out the very well acclaimed, very well received, I guess I should say, Mad Max Fury Road, but there's also another documentary that just recently either came out or is coming out called The Death of Superman Lives, which looks at the movie that fell apart in the 90s. That was a Superman movie that was going to be directed by Tim Burton, starring Nicolas Cage.
Written by Kevin Smith.
Yeah, Kevin Smith was one of the writers on it early on.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that documentary, too.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well. But as much as I'm looking forward to that, I'm looking forward to this more because this was a movie I remember following, like as news broke, like this person is casting and this person is casting. I was really looking forward to this movie. And so I was pretty bummed out whenever it didn't come to fruition. And I'm kind of curious what it was going to be like, especially after seeing Mad Max Fury Road. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. I made the Nerd Year's resolution to watch more documentaries. So this is one that I'm really looking forward to. And if you're interested in the documentaries that I've been watching, I just started a new series on the blog. I'm going to be spotlighting a documentary that I think is interesting every week. Well, I'm going to try to do it every week. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right. So we'll move on to the next story. So this one is another movie that doesn't appear to be happening anymore that really bums me out. So Cary Fukunaga, who directed all of True Detective Season 1, is dropping out of It, which I think we've talked about a couple times on the podcast. He was going to make a 2-part feature film for It, which was written by Stephen King. One where the kids are kids, and the other one, the next film would be when they were grown up. And of course, everybody knows It. They're dealing with a demonic clown, but it's not, I don't know. It's not a clown.
It's not a clown.
It's not a clown.
Just happens to take the shape of a clown.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've read the book.
See, I've only seen the original special with Tim Curry, and it's been a long time since I saw that. All I remember is he turns into a spider at some point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a bummer. And we'll talk about Poltergeist here in a little bit. This movie was going to be put out by New Line, and I guess Fukunaga was kind of clashing with the studio a little bit, and then the studio the word out there, who knows if this is true, is that the studio got cold feet because Poltergeist didn't perform as well as they thought it would.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the case.
I would hope not, because this isn't, remaking a movie. This is taking something that's already out there. It's a book.
Yeah.
And, as well received as the miniseries was at the time, it's kind of laughable now. And
I think it still holds up a little bit.
It's kind of laughable now. and you could take it and you can make it a lot more serious and a lot more scary with the right director, who I have a lot of respect for Cary Fukunaga. I mean, True Detective Season 1 is a masterpiece.
Yeah. So. And I really liked how they were splitting it up. How they were splitting it up to when the kids beat it as kids and then they come back as adults. I think that's an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's such a long book that you can't make it into one movie anyway. Yeah. So it would seem very disjointed.
It's become popular to split books into two. And I always roll my eyes when they do it, but with this book, I could see it because even though I haven't read it, I've seen a copy of it and it is huge.
Yeah. That's the most logical way to split it up. The news is that it's not dead. Like, when the story first broke, everybody just assumed that it was dead in the water.
I heard it might be shifting back to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Which I guess they own New Line now.
I don't keep track of that kind of stuff.
They put out movies in conjunction with New Line now because New Line kind of went bankrupt, I think.
Yeah. You're much better with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know studios. I don't keep track of that shit. But who would you want to take over?
That's a good question.
My first, I know who I want it.
I immediately went to famous horror directors, and I'm having a hard time thinking of somebody who I will want to do it. And the first person to come to mind, I think, would do an okay job, but he's a bit of a dick cheese, so he might screw it up. But
what exactly is a dick cheese?
Well, here, let me say who the director is that came to mind, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what you mean by dick cheese. Eli Roth. He was supposed to make The Cell, which is a Stephen King book, a long time ago, and that was a book that I really enjoyed and I was really looking forward to, and they are making that a movie, but not with Eli Roth. He eventually dropped out of it because he wanted to do shit to it.
He's a dick cheese?
Yeah. He wanted to do shit to it that the studio didn't want, and he was kind of getting away from the source material, so that would scare me. But I think that he would have artistic direction to be able to make a good It movie if he would just stick to the source material. Who came to your mind?
Frank Darabont.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's a really good answer. I mean, he has a good track record with Stephen King stuff.
Yeah. He would stick to the source material and he would do it justice.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I don't know. What is he up to? What is he doing?
Nothing.
He did, I mean,
Mob City didn't work out, so. It was Mob City, right?
Yeah.
I just pulled that out of my ass.
He basically got fired from The Walking Dead and got all pissed off about that. And then he had another series, which I believe was Mob City on TNT.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then that got canceled, right?
Yeah, that got canceled.
All right. So
he doesn't have a whole lot going on.
Go back to your bread and butter, man.
He's doing something. What was that Ray Bradbury book? God damn it. It's like the most famous book. Oh, Fahrenheit 451.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he's adapting that, if I'm not mistaken. That could have been completely, I could have just made that up.
Let's see. IMDb is a good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fahrenheit 451.
He's nailed it.
But I mean, there's like no cast really. It says starring Frank Darabont on this page, so I don't think there's probably much movement on this.
Probably not. He probably said in an interview that he wanted to do it, and so he got an IMDb page for it. Anyways, I just feel like he's the obvious choice, and Eli Roth would be pretty good. You
know what? I hate to get on too much of a tangent here, but Eli Roth had that movie that was supposed to come out last September called The Green Inferno.
Yeah, and I heard nothing about it.
No, it got pushed. It got like canceled.
Oh, really?
This movie's just sitting there, and for whatever reason, the studio didn't want to release it. And I read an interview with him a couple months ago, and he seemed pretty hopeful that it would get released. But for whatever movie, even after they pimped it and everything, and they did all the advertising for it, they just pulled it from their schedule.
That's weird, because he filmed it.
Yeah,
it's done.
It's a done movie. It probably didn't cost that much to make. I'm sure there's a reason why they did, but they had this full movie just sitting somewhere, not releasing.
I don't know,
it's
man.
It's just so weird to me.
It sounded interesting, and he talked a lot about it on the Nerdist episode he was on.
Yeah, that's right. I remember listening to that.
Yeah, and it sounded really interesting, so I'm kind of bummed that, I had been looking forward to it, and then I just never heard anything about it again, and so I was kind of curious now that you brought it up, what happened to it.
Here's another little tangent on Eli Roth.
Okay. This is just an Eli Roth episode.
Did you know that they are making a remake of Cabin Fever? And that they are using the same exact shooting script that the original used.
No, I did not know that.
Isn't that weird? Like
weird.
It has his blessing and everything. They're using the same exact script and they're remaking it with different people. And I'm sure there's an artistic point in there somewhere, but
I don't know.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, cool. So moving on. This is kind of one of those stories. I didn't think we'd have a lot to talk about with it, but I thought it was too funny and absurd to pass up. So Robert Rodriguez is writing and directing a Johnny Quest movie.
Yep. Did you ever watch Johnny Quest?
In the 90s, yeah. A little bit. Not enough to remember hardly anything, but I remember watching it and my dad being like, oh, I used to watch Johnny Quest when I was a kid.
Yeah, have the exact same, not exact same memory. I don't remember your dad telling me that he watched Johnny Quest as a kid. I remember watching it. I could literally tell you nothing about it.
Oh, yeah.
I have no idea what happens.
I mean, obviously the story's not too absurd. Robert Rodriguez has done kids movies like Spy Kids and
Sure.
Shark Boy and Lava Girl, so that's not the absurd part. It's just a weird pull for him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're making a Johnny Quest movie now.
I don't know. Everybody's looking for franchises, man.
I guess Sin City 2 just didn't do the business he was hoping for.
Because it was a garbage movie.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So I never watched the actual tape, but apparently there is video out there of potential Elektra auditions for Daredevil season 2.
Yep.
So it's not so much that the audition tapes are out there. It's more that it's basically confirmation that the character will be in season 2, which makes sense.
They reference her.
Yeah, they hint at her in season 1, and she's a pretty big staple in the Daredevil universe. But anything Daredevil I'm going to bring up because season 1 was so good, and I'm looking forward to season 2 so much.
And it kind of confirms what you had mentioned, that the Hand might be in season 2.
Yeah.
That was kind of what they're hinting at with, what the hell do they call it? With Stick. He killed that little kid. I cannot remember what he called it.
Black Sky?
Black Sky. There you go. Yeah, so I think has something to do with the Hand.
Yeah, and you can easily bring Elektra into that. So
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so keep moving. This one, I know that you posted, well, I think you post a lot of these throughout the week, but this one I know for sure because my wife liked it and she doesn't like any of our stuff. So they're going to reboot League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah. I thought that was a weird thing that she liked.
No, my wife loves that fucking movie.
Oh, really? She's the only one.
Yeah, I've never seen it because I hear how bad it is.
It's not good.
She loves it. So
I don't know why.
And I told her, like, we were at Barnes & Noble not too long ago, and I was looking at the graphic novels, and I was like, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen's a graphic novel, right? She's like, no way.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And it's really good.
It sure is. I've never read it. It's by Alan Moore, though, right?
Yep.
I need to pick that up and give it a shot. Not the movie, though. I've heard it's terrible.
I would watch the movie just because it's a comic book movie.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's not great. I've seen it a stupid amount of times, though, because it's one of those movies that just played all the time, like on Cinemax or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I've watched it a bunch of times. It's one of those movies that you can just kind of ignore, but it's not good. I would not recommend it.
Yeah. I'm happy for my wife, I guess, that
Yeah.
there might be another League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie to watch, but I guess the first one was Sean Connery's last movie, right?
Sounds about right.
That's crazy that he's not done a movie in almost 13 years, 12 or 13 years.
Yep.
Huh. All right. Well, if you don't have anything else to say about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, we'll keep going because still a lot of stories here that I wrote down. All right. So Tilda Swinton may be cast in Doctor Strange, and everybody's saying that she's going to be cast as what's it called?
The Ancient One.
The Ancient One. Thank you.
Yep.
And she is neither Asian nor a man, but I'm all on board for this casting.
Yeah. I mean, she's an excellent actress. I thought she was fantastic in Snowpiercer, even though I wasn't crazy about that movie like everybody else was. But I thought she was excellent in it, and I'm sure she'll be good in this one, even though I'm not that familiar with the character.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the character either, and honestly, I'm not familiar with Doctor Strange that much. I know that the Ancient One is the person who trains Doctor Strange and also trains Doctor Strange's arch enemy, and I don't even know who the name of the arch enemy is off the top of my head. Some nerd I am, but I think it's cool that Tilda Swinton is potentially going to be cast. I know that Marvel's probably feeling the heat a little bit from all the stupid stuff that came out of Age of Ultron and, being accused of, not having enough strong female characters and
Sure.
kind of attacking Joss Whedon, which I agree. There could be more strong female characters in the Marvel universe, but I don't think that Age of Ultron was misogynistic or anything.
No, I didn't think so either.
All right. Well, moving on.
All right.
So this is a story that we haven't really talked about that much, but it was kind of actually a big deal. So like most Guillermo del Toro, oh my gosh, take two, Guillermo del Toro things.
I'm keeping that in there.
No, I figured you would. Like most things he's associated with, he had a Silent Hills game he was helping develop that got canceled.
Yeah. He does so much weird shit, man. It's
and
so good.
half of it gets canceled.
Yeah.
So this game gets canceled. It has Norman Reedus in it, and it uses Norman Reedus's likeness, and for whatever reason, Konami cancels it. There's like a bunch of stuff out there, like the director of the game, not Guillermo del Toro, some other guy that I don't remember his name off the top of my head, kind of clashed with the studio, and apparently Konami wants to get more into the mobile game marketplace. So they basically pull the plug on this game that's 80% done. And it comes out yesterday, so today's Saturday, it comes out Friday that Xbox or Microsoft wants to buy this game for like maybe either the game or the franchise. I can't remember which, for like $1 billion or something crazy. And, make this game an Xbox One exclusive, which I thought was kind of cool. Cause
it's gotta be the franchise. If it's that much money.
I don't know how true that is. Don't listen to me. Citation needed. But I guess the guy who runs Xbox, the Xbox head of Xbox, his name is Phil Spencer, tweeted today that is not true, which is a bit of a bummer. Like, I don't really like the Silent Hill games that much. They're all right. It would be cool to play one that Guillermo del Toro had a hand in. Yeah. So I was kind of looking forward to this game a little bit, and it was really weird that it got canceled when it was almost done.
He does so much stuff, man. It's awesome that he just seems like he just wants to do just what he wants to do. Like, he's not pressured to do whatever the studio wants him to do, or his agent or whoever. Yeah. He does cool shit. He just does whatever he wants.
Yeah, and I respect that a lot about him, but they must have really pissed Konami off for them to pull the plug on a game that was 80% done. Yeah. Like, how much money did they dump into this game before they're like, actually, fuck it? Yeah.
I mean, video games are not cheap to make.
No, not at all. So I'm kind of curious what actually happened there, but we may never know. All right. Actually, I'm sure Del Toro will spill the beans eventually. Yeah. He seems like he's not very tight-lipped, so.
Was that a fat joke? I feel like that was a fat joke.
It could be. It was not meant to be. All right. So I already know that you're not going to care about this one, but I have it written down, so I'm just going to mention it. Tron 3 got canceled.
Don't care in the slightest.
Those movies. I kind of like this Tron Legacy, but I saw Tron Legacy before I saw the original, and the original was made in like the 80s. And it is awful. It is god awful. And I know people love it for, I think, nostalgia purposes, but it's a tough watch. So there's that. And it's probably a good idea to cancel Tron 3 because it was going to cost a buttload of money and nobody was going to go see it. So
did anybody see Tron Legacy? I mean, I know people saw it, but it didn't do what they thought it was going to do.
It did decent enough business that obviously they went ahead with a sequel, but it didn't do what they thought it would. Okay. And a movie like that, like, I know you said you haven't seen it, but the special effects in that movie are crazy, and the budget was ridiculous, and that was like the whole, I think, turning point on why they canceled it.
Sure. All right. But yeah, you're right. I don't care.
Yep. So one more, and then we'll talk about a couple articles you posted this week, if you don't mind. But sure. IGN ran this today. And I'm sure some other sites ran it, but I saw it on IGN. In June, DC Comics is going to be running ads in comics that are half page. And the ad is Nick Lachey pimping Twix candy bars. and it's kind of crazy. And DC said that they're just doing it this month. And I don't know what the purpose is, unless it's going to be a big month for DC. Convergence is over, and it's a good jumping on point for a lot of people that want to read comics. So maybe that's what they're thinking is, let's get it while it's hot. But I am not a fan of this.
No, that's stupid. It takes you out of the book. I mean, I get ads, and it doesn't bother me when they're sprinkled in here and there, because I know it's a business, but making a panel and then ad, that's dumb.
Yeah, and I really hope that it's not a trend. Like, they don't have success with it and start doing it all the time. Hopefully it is just like a one-time thing and we get it over with. But why even do it as a one-time thing?
Yeah. I know you said it was DC, but I talked about Howard the Duck. This seems like something that if Marvel did, that they would make fun of. Yeah. In that book, like Howard the Duck would say something about it. Yeah. I mean, it's so meta and it's hilarious. Definitely read it. I don't know why I brought that up, but it just, that immediately popped in my head when you said that.
In IGN's article, they say that, the comic book community is pretty upset about this, and there's been a lot of negative criticism, and there was a hashtag that was created called Twixgate. Hashtag Twixgate. but there was a sense of humor around it as well. And I thought that this tweet that they put in the article was really funny. It's this guy named Cameron Stewart, and I don't know if he's associated with anything or not, or if he's just a regular guy, but he basically said, those aren't ads in the DC book, guys. Here's a shot from the script for Batgirl 41. And it says, Batgirl, we'll have to do this together. So she's saying that. And then it says panel 5. Suddenly, Nick Lachey appears in frame. He looks handsome and casual, wearing a blazer, one thumb tucked jauntily in his pocket. In his other hand, he holds a Twix bar. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But definitely not something that I hope sticks. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I have 2 more things I just wanted to bring up. They're both kind of things that you posted throughout the week on the Nerds You're Looking For's Facebook and Twitter. So the first was something that I read thoroughly and I really enjoyed. It was another article on IGN. I feel like we borrow from them a lot.
Oh, yeah. I love IGN.
Yeah, IGN has a lot of great stuff. So we've touched on this before, and it's kind of been a rumor, but something kind of happened that solidified it as fact. That Marvel doesn't want Fantastic Four and X-Men products being made. Yep. And it's this long article. It's full of really good information. I suggest you read it. I'm sure Pat will post a link to it in the episode notes.
Yeah. And I also posted to our Facebook and Twitter at the Nerds Podcast.
I mean, it's already out there for you to click on. I guess, I don't remember the company's name, but some company was making statues and stuff associated with, X-Men, and they were basically.
That looked awesome.
Yeah, they looked like really awesome statues, and they were basically told by Marvel, stop it. These are the characters you're allowed to use, and you need to halt production on these characters. So confirming what we already kind of knew was that they just don't want to pimp this stuff that 20th Century Fox owns pretty much, owns the rights to. And, there's a blurb in the article that kind of makes sense. It's like, if Marvel has all these characters that they can put stuff out for, that they own 100% of and get 100% of the products or profits, why would they put a bunch of effort into things they only get 5% of or something crazy?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. But on the other side of the opinion here, you're alienating fans from characters that they care about.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's kind of the point of the article, and whoever wrote it, I can't remember his name, and I wish I had looked that up before we started talking about it, but he made a really great point that the only people that suffer in this whole thing is us. As nerds, as Marvel fans, because we're not getting these awesome statues and these awesome collectibles. And I know, Tyler, you're big into toy collecting. I'm not as much as some of my other friends are. I know Mike from the Obsessive Viewer is big into toy collecting.
Yeah.
And so those are the people that suffer. Marvel's going to make their money. Fox is going to make their money. These movies are going to print money. So they'll be fine. It's us that kind of lose out on that.
I agree, and I definitely take the fanboy side here, but just playing the devil's advocate, I also see Marvel's side.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it's a business, but you're still getting some money from it.
Yeah.
It's not like you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart.
It's not like the guy sitting there whittling this statue's like, son of a bitch, why the fuck am I doing this? I only get 5%.
Yeah.
Like, he gets paid no matter what, too. Yeah. It's like, I understand.
Yeah. I can see both sides, but it just kind of bums me out that the business part of it, we're losing out, basically. The business comes first.
Yeah. It makes the Marvel universe just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it almost seems like the X-Men and Fantastic Four just don't exist anymore, almost.
Yeah. I mean, that's how they're treating it.
Yeah. It's just really surreal because these characters were like the pillar of Marvel. Like a few of the pillars of Marvel that everything was built on and built around.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird situation. Alrighty, this next thing I just wanted to bring up because it's getting really annoying. So set photos. You posted a blurb about it on Twitter, like people are insinuating these are leaked.
No, they're not.
Yeah. They're just too much, right?
Yeah, for sure. That Suicide Squad shit it's pissing me off.
It's not even like giving me the option anymore. Like these sites aren't giving me the option to not click something to find out. They're putting in the headlines, check out Joker and Batman in this chase.
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, Batman's in Suicide Squad. Like, that would have been a cool surprise.
Yeah. Exactly. That's, oh my God. How cool would it have been to go see that movie and not know that Batman was going to be?
Yeah, for sure.
It would have been so cool, but it's just, I don't think they care. Like, obviously, whoever's running Suicide Squad, whether it's the director or whoever is in control of that kind of stuff, they obviously either don't care or are doing this on purpose. And I would say, since things leak. Things leaked about Age of Ultron, whatnot. But as much as this is, they're putting it out on purpose.
Well,
there's no doubt in my mind.
Well,
that they're
the same
doing
thing
it on
happened
purpose.
with Civil War. There were all sorts of set photos for Civil War.
Yeah.
Like, I know 100% what Crossbones looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not because Marvel put it out. It's because set photos leaked it.
That seemed to be more of an accident than Suicide Squad.
I think with Suicide Squad too, you look at whenever David Ayer put out like the official look at Joker and the official look at the squad together on his Twitter page. Like 2 days later, they started filming and all this shit leaked out. I think you're right. I think that they're not trying to stop it, but I also think that it's partially something along the lines of, well, fuck, well, like where we're filming, there's bound to be stuff leaked. Like, why don't we just put it out there on our own first and say these are certified images, and then, you know, when the set photos come out, people won't think they have this big scoop on what Harley Quinn's going to look like or what Joker's going to look like.
I don't see as much from other movies. And so I think there's a way, whether I don't know how they would patrol this at all. It's not my job to think of ways to patrol your movie set. Get people that aren't going to film it.
So Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yep.
Nothing set photo wise.
Exactly.
And I wonder if it has to do with a budget thing too. Like, I'm guessing that Batman vs. Superman was filmed a lot on sound stages.
Sure.
Which I'm guessing costs a lot more to build sets and stuff like that than use the streets of Toronto like Suicide Squad is using. So
Suicide Squad's not an indie movie by any means.
No, but I'm guaranteeing that their budget is nowhere near what Batman vs. Superman was.
No, but I mean,
but at a certain point, like, you know, hire some security.
Yeah. And I think, to be honest with you, the Civil War stuff seemed more like it was actually legitimately leaked. Yeah. Because it seemed like someone was just like on top of a building, like with a high powered lens or whatever. I don't know anything about cameras.
I don't know. That shot of Crossbones was like 2 feet away.
It seemed to be on at a weird angle. So that seemed more like leaked, but I don't think it's a coincidence that they kind of came out about the same time. And then, I mean, obviously Suicide Squad's a DC property and Civil War is a Marvel property. So they're competing and coming out around the same time. Not exactly the same time, but so they're trying to steal the headlines from each other. So that didn't, I didn't think that was a coincidence, but yeah, I'm tired of it, man. That Suicide Squad stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. You could cut it together in almost half of the movie at this point.
I mean, if anything, I think that the sites that post it need to be a little bit more spoiler conscious. Like, maybe not everybody wants to know what happens in the headlines.
Well,
like,
I mean,
I can't go to comicbook.com without finding out what they're filming in Suicide Squad.
Yeah. The Batman thing kind of bummed me out. I didn't actually watch the video.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I didn't. I wanted at least that to be fresh to me, even though I know it happens now. But, I mean, I can't imagine how cool it would have been to sit there and not know. But I also, with everything that goes on with people leaking and talking on social media and stuff like that, I'm sure we would have known by the time we sat down Thursday night to watch Suicide Squad that Batman was in it.
I guess I will be interested to see if the stuff they're filming now with like the car chase scene, if that happens in a flashback or not.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, well, I guess not obviously. I won't go into too much speculation on what I think the movie's going to be. I
thought it was weird that Suicide Squad comes out after Batman v Superman, because we haven't seen Batman yet.
Yeah.
And so I thought Suicide Squad would be kind of a cool way to introduce the character, Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah.
And then have Batman v Superman, but it's actually Suicide Squad comes out like 3 or 4 months later.
Yeah, it comes out in August, and Batman v Superman comes out in March.
Which I think is a weird date for that type of movie to come out.
Yeah.
It's really, really early.
Yeah, I don't think it'll do as much business because it's so early, unless they hit like spring break people.
Yeah.
I guess, but
I kind of interrupted you. What were you saying?
Nothing.
Okay, cool.
All right, man. That's all I have for nerd news.
All right, cool. So our next segment is we've just dubbed it our main topic. Recently, we've been doing a lot of reviews, and we're going to continue that trend. We're going to review Poltergeist, which actually came out last week, but we decided to review Tomorrowland last episode instead. So we're just now getting to Poltergeist. Obviously, it is a remake of the 1982 horror classic of the same name that focuses on a family's house that is being haunted by evil forces. So Tyler, we've been doing this the last couple of reviews. I like to start off with just like your broad strokes. What'd you feel about Poltergeist?
Before we get too far into a discussion about this movie, have you seen the original Poltergeist?
Yes, I have.
All right. I watched the original Poltergeist for the first time last October, so a little late to it. I mean, I know what a big movie it was, and, it's considered one of the top horror movies of all time, I guess you could say. And I didn't really like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't really, for whatever reason.
Was it because of expectations or?
I think that is definitely expectations.
I kind of feel the same way with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people have such high regard for that movie.
That's exactly how I felt when I watched the original Poltergeist. And I was just like, I don't really get it. But I was excited for the remake because there were definitely things in that movie that could be brought up to more modern times and made scary.
Yeah.
So I was definitely looking forward to this movie, especially, Sam Rockwell's in it. He's an amazing actor. I love most of the stuff he does. And I kind of figured that if he signs on to this movie, then there must be a good quality to it.
Yep.
I was incorrect.
Okay.
This movie sucked. I hated this movie so much.
Okay.
The scariest part of this movie was as we sat there and watched it, there was a spider lowering itself from the ceiling in the movie theater in the row in front of us.
Yeah.
Did you see it? Because I tried to point it out to you.
You did point it out. Like at one point you were pointing at it and I was like, what the fuck is he pointing at? And you kind of like got my attention and I didn't see anything. And then later on I saw it and then you were like, oh, hey, the spider. I was like, yeah, I don't care.
And then it was weird. It lowered itself all the way to eye level with us and then it went right back up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
So that's how interested I was in this movie is I was more entertained by the spider in front of us. I'm not even scared of spiders. I could give a shit, but this movie did not hold my attention, obviously.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's what you were going to say when during the movie you were trying to get my attention to look at the spider. So I kind of figured that you weren't really that interested in this movie. But I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think I liked it a little bit more than you did. My first thoughts when I came out of this movie was, like you, I was kind of expecting, not that the special effects in the original were horrible. I think for the time, it was actually pretty decent. But like you, I felt like this movie could expand and upgrade a little bit. But it didn't at all.
Nope.
It was basically what it reminded me, it was just, they had a checklist of all the cadence of the first movie, and they were just checking off the major parts, which, I mean, it makes sense as a remake, and most remakes do that, but it was just a carbon copy.
Yep. It wasn't even a good carbon copy. I think I like the original more than I like this one.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because the original was a little bit more grotesque, and this one was rated PG-13, and it was definitely handcuffed by that, I think. One of the that's a bit of a spoiler, so I won't touch on that. But, one of the most famous scenes from the first one is whenever...
Are you afraid not to spoil a movie that came out in 82?
No, I'm talking about I don't want to spoil this remake. But, one of the more famous scenes from the first one is whenever, I think it's Craig T. Nelson, the dad character, is looking in the mirror and he sees his reflection and he's like peeling off his face. That can't happen in this movie because it's just too grotesque. And they kind of do a play on it with Sam Rockwell's character, but they totally tame it down.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's just,
I actually expected that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know it was PG-13. I assumed it was R going in. And when that scene was starting, I was like, okay, here we go. He's going to peel off his face. And that never happened.
Nope.
One thing that I really liked about the original is it was a little bit longer. It was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a little over 2 hours long. This movie was like an hour 30. And because it was a little bit longer, the original, you got to know the family a little bit more and you got to kind of feel the toll this whole experience was taking on them. This movie, the remake, completely did away with that. They completely just bunched it together into an hour and 30 minutes. And basically from the first night that they stay in this house, shit starts happening. And that's not how the original goes. You kind of get to know the family a little bit first. And they do a little bit of that. Like Sam Rockwell lost his job. And so they have a little bit of that, like the financial toll. They had to move to this new house because he got laid off and his wife doesn't work. And then you have this scene that he's trying to pick up some stuff and then he can't get any of the credit cards to work. and you feel bad for him. But then he goes right to the mall and buys all this expensive shit. And I'm just like, you're a child.
Yeah.
If you're really that hard up for money, I get that you were trying to regroup the troops or whatever and try to boost morale in the house. But if you don't have the money, you don't have the money.
And I read that almost as he was having a little bit of a breakdown about his situation, and they never touch on it again.
No.
It's just a really weird, out of place scene.
And one thing that really bothered me about this movie is it's just a series of jump scares. That's all it is.
Not even good jump scares either.
Fucking squirrel, man. That pissed me off so much. Like, that's I don't want to say the scariest moment of the movie, but it's like I literally not jumped, but as soon as I was like, okay, well, that's a squirrel. I don't get scared very often, and I didn't at all in this movie, but I did not necessarily jump a couple of times. But for me, that's not horror movie. That's not scary.
No. It's just cheap.
It's cheap, exactly. Like The Babadook and a little bit in It Follows. You just don't feel right. Like you're creeped out. You just don't feel right. And this movie never even came close to that. I was way too relaxed watching this movie. It was just blah.
Yep. This movie was very formulaic as well.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like I've seen this movie 30 times in other movies.
Yeah.
And not because it's a remake, because I think the first one, the original Poltergeist, did do things that were maybe new to the genre, and that's why it's kind of stood the test of time for some people. But this movie felt like every other haunted house movie I've seen in the last 15 years. So you have the kids, and they see stuff first, and the parents don't believe them, and then shit goes crazy, and the parents are like, oh shit, that really is haunted, and we have to go get the paranormal investigators, and it's just very, very formulaic, and everything that I expected to happen happens. It was just super boring because of that. I was very bored during this movie. I
don't feel like they understood the tone of the first movie. Like, I feel like the director what did he do? Monster House? Is that a thing?
That's the thing.
Yeah. He did the Monster House. They just tried everything in this movie. They had the creepy clowns, which, I mean, it's on the poster, but it really doesn't play that big of a part in the movie, and it's kind of silly in the movie.
Yeah.
That wasn't creepy at all. I mean, he tried the creepy tree, which obviously is a callback to the original movie. The kind of ominous attic, which, let's be honest, this kid is a pussy. Why would you put the scaredest kid who says multiple times during the movie that he's scared of everything? Why would you put him in the creepiest room in the house?
When you have a teenage daughter who would probably love to have that privacy. Yeah. Like, put her ass up there.
And then the special effects weren't that great. Like when they go to the other dimension or whatever, the evil ghouls, I guess you would call them.
Oh.
They looked so bad.
I was saving this, but let's talk about this. That looked like fucking PlayStation 2 graphics.
I literally, on my notes, I put, and I don't know if you've ever played this game, but it looks like, Dante's Inferno.
Fuck yes.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. It was garbage. Oh my God, it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I could tell they did some practical stuff with, like, the tree, and here and there was a little bit of practicality, which I appreciated, but as soon as they go to, like, this different dimension that you're talking about, which I don't think is too much of a spoiler, it happens in the original.
Sure.
It's garbage. It's terrible. Oh my God. This is 2015, and that's what we get in this movie.
I liked how it showed you that other dimension, because you don't see that in the original movie. But that's kind of the point of the original movie. You don't necessarily have to see it because you care about the family. But I liked how they added that in this movie, but it just looked so shitty that it kind of took me out of the movie.
This is a tad off topic, but it has me thinking about, like, the end of the movie. So it's not a spoiler, but it's just, all right, maybe I missed it, but so there's this huge neighborhood and they're all on top of this cemetery. So why is it just them that gets tortured? Is it because that's where, like, the portal to the dimension is?
I think it's because of the girl. Because they keep mentioning that she has, like, special powers. So if any other family lived in this house, it wouldn't be bad. Because they noticed that the girl had, like, that special power. They mentioned that she's, like, gonna be their light. Or I don't know. Yeah, they didn't explain it very well, but I think the idea was...
Obviously, they didn't explain it very well.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think the idea was that it was the girl that played a huge part.
They're driving through their neighborhood at the end of the movie, and all their neighbors are coming out like, man, what the fuck's going on? And it just got me thinking. It's like, nobody else has experienced paranormal activity. You all live on a fucking cemetery where there's dead bodies and all this stuff is going on, and nobody else has anything going on. Just weird to me.
Yeah, obviously they didn't explain it very well, but I think that's kind of how I justified it. And it kind of bugged me that nobody else... I mean, you mentioned that the neighbors came out at one point, but I mean, it took a really long time for someone to come out and be like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there was a lot of shit going on.
There was a lot of destruction going on before anybody came out to see what was up.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. I did, however, like Griffin's story arc.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. I mean, I kind of bashed their character development or lack thereof kind of hard with Sam Rockwell, his character buying all that shit. But I really liked how they built this kid up to be like a pussy, and then he ends up being, well, I won't spoil that. But I just liked how his story arc paid off.
Yeah, and I mean, I liked what Sam Rockwell brought to it a little bit as well. Like, I thought the performances were fine. I enjoyed Sam Rockwell in this movie because I always enjoy him. I thought his character was a little off, though.
Oh, yeah,
we talk about, like, the stuff with him going out and spending the money. There's also a scene where something traumatic happens to their family, and he's still cracking jokes, like 5 minutes later.
He reminded me of his character in The Way, Way Back.
Yeah.
If that character had kids.
Yeah.
That's exactly how he played it.
Yep, I can see that.
What bothered me about his performance, and I actually liked it at certain spots, I think him and his wife, played by Rosemary DeWitt, I thought that was great. I thought that was really charming. Their scenes together, I really enjoyed their scenes together, their chemistry. There was one scene in particular where something, and I thought you were actually going to bring it up, something dramatic happens. Like, they're all gathered in this big circle, and I guess he thinks he sees the girl. Like, they do this like shadow effect, and she runs upstairs, and then he goes to chase her, and then he's walking down the hallway, and he's just like strutting his shit. Like, I best not see a ghost. I'll kick a ghost's ass. Like, he admits, like, earlier in the movie that he's scared. But then he's walking down this hallway like it's no big thing. And it just seemed weird. And I tried to justify it at the time when we were watching the movie. I was like, well, maybe he's just trying to be strong with his family, for his family. But then I thought, he's by himself at this point. He's upstairs by himself. If you're gonna act scared, this would be the time to act it. He just didn't play it like that at all. And that kind of bugged me a little bit. But for the most part, I didn't mind his character. It's certainly not one of his better performances, but like I said, him and the wife, I thought I really liked their chemistry.
Yeah, I did too. I just didn't like certain tropes with the character throughout the movie as things started to kind of hit the fan.
Yeah. So my big thing about this movie, and I've kind of touched on it a little bit, and this really is the last thing that I want to talk about, is this movie just wasn't scary. Wasn't scary at all. I never felt uncomfortable. I was really relaxed the entire movie. The movie, I mentioned Griffin's arc. I really liked how it paid off. Unfortunately, by the time it does pay off, I didn't care about this movie anymore.
Yep.
And so it was a real bummer. I think we kind of tore apart Tomorrowland last episode, and now we're tearing apart Poltergeist this episode. We probably should have just done a couple of top fives.
Yeah, I think that would have been probably a better idea. You know, I didn't have super high hopes for this movie, but I did expect to like it more than I did, for sure.
Yep. All right, so star rating.
I always go first. I'll give it a 2.
Yep, I'm gonna go with it 2 as well, because there was some aspects of this movie that I liked, but for the most part, I will never see this movie again.
I would give this movie a 1.5 if Sam Rockwell wasn't in it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So that's the only justifying thing, I guess, there.
All right, so our last segment is Nerd Favorite. We just ask each other a question each week. What's your favorite blank? We take turns. Each episode we switch off. So it's Tyler's episode. So what's your nerd favorite this week?
So we just spent a good portion of time ripping apart a Sam Rockwell performance in a Sam Rockwell movie. So let's remember the good times. Let's talk about the good times. Let's talk favorite Sam Rockwell performance. So not favorite Sam Rockwell movie, his favorite performance in a movie. Okay. All right. So I'll let you think for a second, and I'm going to go ahead with mine. Mine is Iron Man 2.
Okay.
So I'm not a huge...
That's a weird choice.
I know, right? But I'm not a huge fan of this movie. It's one of the weaker Marvel movies for sure. But I love him in this movie. I think that he really shines as playing like this eccentric, opposite of Tony Stark. And he's almost a bit of a dumbass, but he's really full of himself and he plays it so well. It's very Sam Rockwell-y, if that makes sense. But he's funny. He's eccentric. He's a great villain. And he gets to play like the bad version of Tony Stark, which I love. And there's a lot of nuances with his character. Like he has orange palms in the movie. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but it's almost like he uses self-tanner and he has the orange left on his hands. And it's just something that his character would do. And he's so funny.
He reminds me of what Tony Stark was before he got kidnapped.
Yeah, that's an awesome comparison.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love his interactions with Mickey Rourke throughout it because they're just such complete different villains. And it's really cool. I haven't seen Hail to the King, which was short on the Iron Man 3 Blu-ray.
Yeah.
That deals with the Mandarin, but apparently he cameos in that.
Cool.
In prison with Trevor, whatever his name is, who was acting like the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. So I really want to watch that and kind of get a little taste of that character again, because I think he was so funny and so great in Iron Man 2. All right, man. What's your favorite Sam Rockwell performance?
I mean, there's a lot of good ones. Matchstick Men. I couldn't talk for a second there. Comes to mind. The way back I mentioned before.
That's what I thought you'd pick.
But I'm gonna go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's really dumb, man.
I love that movie so much, and
so that's your favorite Sam Rockwell. I said performance, not favorite Sam Rockwell movie.
I don't care. It's my choice, and that's what I'm going with.
So you think he's a better actor?
He got robbed. He should have got an Oscar for that.
He does a better performance in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles than the way back.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, cool. Glad we're taking things seriously.
Well, I mean, we haven't been taking...
You know what he's billed as in that movie?
I have no idea.
Head thug.
He was the head thug. He played it perfectly.
All right, cool. Man.
So I guess that's about it.
I guess so.
You do the outro. You do it this week.
Oh, I'm not prepared for this. All right. So as always, please visit our website, thenerdpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the Nerds Podcast. Nope. At the Nerd Podcast, no S.
There is an S.
Nerds Podcast?
Yep, the Nerds Podcast.
Well, son of a bitch. Yeah, follow us at the Nerds Podcast. You're right, there is an S. Now that I say it out loud again. Facebook.com/the Nerds Podcast.
You're so bad at this.
Like us, all that good jazz. I said good jazz, and that's not even the fucking saying. Google Plus, we have a Google Plus page if you want to check that shit out. We're going to be at Indie PopCon at the end of June. That's going to be a good time, and you can come record at our booth and all that stuff. And we're going to record on the stage, I guess, if that thing happens again. I don't know. What else? There's a YouTube page out there, the Nerds You're Looking For. I think that's about does it, right?
That was torture for you.
Yeah, it really was. It's like, there's a lot of shit. If there's some kind of social media, chances are we're on it as either the Nerds You're Looking For or the Nerds Podcast. So we didn't mention it, but we did roll out a new logo as well. Yep. And, a new cover page for our Twitter and Facebook. So I want to say thank you to our friend Mary Cito who put those together.
Yeah, she did an excellent job.
I really like it. So yeah, and all that other shit I rambled about a few minutes ago. You can check us out there. We're going to record again next week like we always do. So
yep.
Check us out.
Do we know what we're doing yet?
Oh yeah, top 5 horror remakes.
Yep.
So nothing really coming out that we want to review, kind of a little in-between episode. So we're going to talk about our top 5 horror remakes, which should be interesting for sure.
Poltergeist probably not going to be on
Not going to make the cut. So.
All right, cool, man.
All right. For Tyler Hunt.
Patrick Kuhn.
We are the Nerds You're Looking For. Take it easy, guys.
See ya. Could Could you have sounded more apathetic? Yeah, just, go check us out on Twitter. The Nerd Podcast, which is not even our handle. Google Plus.
I bring the humor, man.